حلقة هذا اليوم متميزة هي الأخرى بموضوعها وضيفها، لأنه لأول مرة نستضيف شخص من خلفية إسلامية متطرفة، أي إرهابي سابق، تحول من تفكيره المتطرف إلى محبة المسيح. نرحب بالأخ وليد شعيبات. أهلا بك.
أهلا أخ رشيد. محمود المغربي أعطاني عبوة ناسفة، من القدس، من الأقصى، حتى الوقف، يعني كان شرطة الوقف
سهلوا
عملية
مرورك
إلى بيت لحم. فلما ذهبت إلى بيت لحم لأنسف بنك لأومي إسرائيل، بنك إسرائيلي،
كان المفروض أنك تفجر نفسك والعبوة أو
أفجر البنك. فوضعت عبوة ناسفة على سقف البنك. انفجرت العبوة الناسفة بعد 5 دقائق من وضعها جنب كنيسة القيامة في بيت لحم.
طيب، من يكون وليد شعيبات هذا الذي قدمه رشيد حمامي لمشاهديه على أنه إرهابي سابق؟ هل هو حقا كذلك؟ أم هي مجرد كذبة من الكذبات التي يروج لها رشيد حمامي ضمن برامجه عن طريق القصص المفبركة كالعادة؟ هذا ما سنكتشفه في التقرير التالي الذي أعدته شبكة CNN والحكم للمشاهد.
Keep it honest tonight. A fascinating report about your tax dollars going into the pocket of a man who claims to have unique insight on terrorism because he used to be a terrorist. Walid Shubat is his name. He claims to have bombed an Israeli bank, been a member of the PLO who attacked Israeli soldiers, and grew up a devout Muslim who hated Jews. Now converted to Christianity, he travels America lecturing churches and police about the dangers of Islam, and he gets paid for it.
Being a terrorism expert has become a cottage industry since 9/11. The Department of Homeland Security has spent nearly $40 million on counterterrorism training just since 2006. DHS doesn't keep records on how much is spent just on speakers. But some of the so-called experts who go around the country teaching, and in some cases preaching, about terrorism and the dangers of Islam are not quite what they seem. People, it turns out, like Walid Shubat.
The first thing I want to ask you is, what was the purpose of your talk this morning to these cops and emergency responders here in South Dakota?
Well, being an ex-terrorist myself is to understand the mindset of the terrorist, number one.
An ex-terrorist. It's Walid Shubat's claim to fame. A terrorist, a PLO member, who bombed a branch of an Israeli bank in Bethlehem Square, throwing a firebomb on the bank's roof. The problem with the story, with a lot of Shubat's stories, there's no evidence for them. And despite CNN's many requests, neither Shubat nor his business partner have provided us with any.
Bombings in Bethlehem Square, you specifically said you threw...
The bank was in the Bethlehem Square.
You threw explosives.
Yes, I did.
On top of that bank.
Yes, I did.
No record.
CNN's Jerusalem bureau went to great lengths trying to verify Shubat's story, finding the general location where the branch of Bank Leumi once stood, but not finding anyone who could remember a bombing. We contacted the bank headquarters in Tel Aviv, asking officials to search records. No records found. And Israeli police found no record anyone ever threw a bomb at the branch of the bank.
Why would the bank not have a record? Why would the Israeli police not have a record?
Why would the Israeli police not have a record? I don't know. I mean, I don't know where you check, what dates, all these things.
There's another part of his story that doesn't check out. Shubat says he was arrested and spent 2 weeks in an Israeli prison.
There's no record of you being in prison. I think there'd be at least an arrest record. They held you for 2 weeks. Wouldn't the United States know you were in prison if you were a U.S. citizen?
Oh, how about me and you go to the Muscovia prison and extract the records? The records are there.
Okay.
Would you be willing to do so?
We did, and the Israeli detention center could find no record of detaining anyone with the name Walid Shubat.
Yeah. You obviously can see why people are critical of your claims. There's a whole lot of gaps in your story.
There's no gaps at all.
We don't have a bank bombing.
And we don't have a terrorist because it turns out Walid Shubat, even on his own admission, was never charged.
I was in prison for a few weeks.
Was there a charge?
No, I was a U.S. citizen, remember? I was born by an American mother. The other conspirators in the act ended up in jail. I ended up being released.
There's another problem, his family. In the neighborhood where Walid Shubat grew up, relatives say he was just a regular kid. And Daoud Shubat, who says he is Walid's fourth cousin, goes even further.
There were only two banks in Bethlehem district, and they are Bank Leumi and Discount Bank. They were on Nativity Square, and Walid never had any connection with those two banks, not a close or a distant connection. I tell you, this is out of experience. I am one of the people who are considered a responsible man in the area of Bethlehem or Beth Sahur. I have never heard anything about Walid being a mujahid or a terrorist. He claims this for his own personal reasons.
So true. He's saying he claimed this for his own personal reasons. What personal reasons?
Well, there's a big personal reason here. It's called money. You know, Anderson, enough to tell you, classic investigative reporting, you follow the money. Like his background, how Walid Shubat is now making that money is about as mysterious as his past.
Yeah. The Walid Shubat Foundation, is that a charity?
Walid Shubat Foundation is part of the FFMU.
And what does the FFMU do?
Basically, we're in the information, and we do speaking, and we do also helping Christians that are being persecuted in countries like Pakistan. And we help Christians who are suffering all throughout the Middle East.
And how do you do that?
None of your business.
It's clear Walid Shubat does not like tough questions.
It's a stupid question.
He became even more defensive when we began asking about his foundations, his tax-exempt status, and all the money he is making. He has turned what some might call hate speech into a career, trading on his past to advise law enforcement officials and religious groups about the threat of Islamic radicals. He says he was a Palestinian terrorist jailed by the Israelis, but it's a life story based on very little evidence. But it sure pays well. Tax records filed by his business partner reveal his speaking engagements earned more than $560,000 in 2009.
في نهاية الحلقة لا تنسى الاشتراك في القناة وتفعيل الجرس لتتوصل بحلقات هذه السلسلة حال نشرها.